I have a very good rapport with my customers and the gentleman who worked for me. I was the go-to guy. My father, he's kind of, he's a hard man to work with. So all the drivers, whenever they had issues or problems or customers, everybody would kind of come to me instead of having to deal with him. So I was in charge of like a lot of things. That segues into the next part of my story, which is December 19, 2002. So December 19, 2002, I was still vice president at this recycling company. It was the morning of what was going to be our Christmas party. We had work that day. It was kind of laid back work because we were about to celebrate Christmas with our guys. I did have a great group of guys, so that was very important to us. Like, these were the guys that were making me able to have all my success, so it was very important to me to give back to them. So we rented out a Chinese restaurant in Assonet. And, you know, we had our Christmas party there, handed my guys out their bonuses, had some drinks, ate some food. We stayed there till about 11 or so. On my way home, I made the poor choice to drive home that night after drinking. So on my way home from this Christmas party, where I made the bad choice, I got into a head-on collision on Acushnet Avenue with another gentleman who had left a bar and chose to drive that night. And me and another vehicle got into a head-on collision. During this head-on collision, two gentlemen in another vehicle lost their life instantly. I was thrown about in my truck. I flipped over 6-7 times on the avenue. When the police got there, I was somewheres in my truck, which was on fire now. And let me back up just 1 second, please. About a month or two before this accident, I had separated from my ex-wife. And so I was living out of my truck pretty much. That's a very important piece. I apologize for leaving that out. So, as you could tell, my life was in extreme turbulence going into this. I've lost, in trying to gain this ultimate life of what I thought was everything great, I've lost everything that helped get me there, my family at that point. So the police arrived on the scene. My truck was on fire. I was in the truck. They said they heard me screaming, a lot of profanities. And a police officer, I was driving a Ford Explorer. They're the ones with the window that pop up in the back. And like, I had my radio system back there, which was very big, but on top of that, everything I owned was in the vehicle. All my clothes, everything was there because that's where I was pretty much living out of. So the police officer came, heard me scream and see the truck on fire. I was blessed that, you know, he was able to kick out my back window, pull all my stuff out through the back of my truck, and then drag my body through the back of the truck, where he observed that I had a metal obstruction in my face. The shifter from my truck had broken off the column and went into my face and was lodged into my brain. Of course, he didn't know it was in my brain at the point. He just seen like this much of a metal thing sticking out of my face. From there, they bring me to St. Luke's Hospital, where I was med-flighted to Brigham and Women's Hospital, where I was then seen by the neurosurgeons. They took an x-rays and found out that I had this large metal obstruction through my brain and wasn't sure if I was going to make it or not. During this time, my family's being informed, and I'm going to come back to that because that's actually pretty important to me when it comes to talking about humanities classes. So I flatlined twice at the hospital as the neurosurgeons was removing the obstruction from my brain. After I flatlined twice, they bring me back. They got me stable, and I remained in a coma for 8 days. Sometime between this accident and 8 days, I have absolutely no memory. I have absolutely no memory of the accident. I have very few memories of the party right before the accident, of a conversation I was having with an employee of mine standing by a jukebox. Like, I vaguely remember, you know, details of the party. So I don't remember anything of the drive, the accident, or thereafter. Sometime during this period of time, I had with, you know, the phrase was coined back in 1975 or so by the gentleman y'all was studying, Raymond Moody. near-death experience, and that's where the middle of this is, the near-death experience. I'm gonna do the best to describe the vision I had. Feel free, close your eyes, think about whatever you want to think of, and let it touch you however it touches you. Just because this is me and my experience doesn't mean that it's going to touch you, or you might get something different out of it than from what I got out of it, even though I experienced it. It's that simple. So I'm somewheres. I don't know where I am. I am somewheres. There is no feeling of any other presence anywheres. I feel like I am completely isolated in my own realm of reality, say. I was in, I remember it being like a tall skyscraper. And to look outside, I would see many skyscrapers. And all these skyscrapers were designed almost like the real fancy buildings in New York, to where it was just all glass fronts. Everything was like so pure and clean. Like I described it once as like Emerald City, for those of you who watch Wizard of Oz and stuff like that, where every building was just perfectly sparkly clean. And it wasn't transparent. It wasn't transparent, and it didn't give off a reflection, as in I couldn't see a reflection. Somebody actually asked me that recently. But the sensation, the realness of everything was just the same. I was inside a room that would be inside this skyscraper that would be designed as a cross between maybe a hotel room and a hospital room. Everything inside this room was stainless steel, completely polished, like not a stain, not a scratch, there is no blemish in this place. That struck me as kind of odd. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, so like the whole cleanliness of everything just made everything seem like very pure. Almost maybe that was my sense of like heavenly, like that. I was aware that was another realm of being. I looked at some of Raymond Moody's principles that he's put together through many of the studies, many of the experiences that were shared with him. Some of them are similar. Some of us similar. For example, he speaks that a lot of times people say they see their whole life flash before their eyes, almost as in like if anybody has seen The Matrix, there's a part of The Matrix where it comes into meet the author of life, say, and there's all these TVs everywhere, and it shows every choice that he could have possibly made and every potential, and everything was up there for him. So I imagine something like that when I read when I read Raymond Moody's principles. However, for me, my story was not portrayed in front of me. There was no images of my story. There was no visuals of my story. However, it was evident to me that my story was all around me. Perhaps that's what the building was. Perhaps, like, again, this is some of the stuff I still think about every day, so I haven't quite come to terms with myself. So as I'm in this room, I'm all by myself, and there was no sense of time. I don't know how long it felt like. Somebody also asked me that. There was no sense of time whatsoever there. I had a feeling of complete isolation. And then, as Raymond Moody would suggest, of a greater being of light. I didn't actually see a light. As I said, everything was very, very bright, euphoric almost, because just how polished everything was. So I didn't see I didn't mean God. I didn't see a bright light. What I did though is I had an overbearing sensation of a divine power. I remember thinking about all the wrong ways I was living in life. All my personal paradigms, everything that was leading me to think, and all my motivation was all in the wrong place. And I remember like almost meditating about it in this room and thinking, Joey, you're not that bad of a guy. You're a Marine. I remember such a guilty feeling about the two gentlemen that lost their life, and I still carry that guilt. But I remember such a guilty feeling that 4 years prior, I was swearing into the Marine Corps because, yes, it was for these money, but the reason why I chose for these motivations, but the reason why I chose the Marine Corps is I really do love America. I love America. I love people, and for me, it was more personal. Like, you know, when I volunteered to, like, you know, risk my life, it was for my family. It was for my brothers and sisters. I didn't have children at the time, so it was for my brothers and sisters. It was for my block. It was for New Bedford. It was for, like, all these things. Like, I felt that was my way of, you know, representing or whatever, you know, protecting my little corner of the world. So when two gentlemen lost their life in my accident from my city of a bad decision that I made, it was a lot of guilt there. So, you know, I remember contemplating these thoughts, contemplating how the wrongs that I've wronged my family, you know, the cheating, the abuse, you know, all derived around all you know, substances, everything that I was putting, you know, my time and effort and energy into. So all these overwhelming feelings of guilt hit me, and I remember just begging, please God, give me one more chance to say who I am. You know, this was my life, and I felt like I wasted it. Please God, give me one more chance. You know, for everybody, you know, they might have their own God. They might not believe in God. They could believe in whatever they want. To me, God is all goodness. You know, and I don't care what path you take to get there, what religion you use to get there. To me, God's just all goodness. You know, and so I remember begging and pleading, like, please, you know, just give me one more chance.